makes it difficult is the role the media.
But the reality was I hadn't spoken to Mr. Cosby, and I felt that it would be kind of tactless.
Picture this. It's a regular Thursday night in October 2014. People are scrolling through their phones, watching random videos online. Then suddenly, a short clip starts spreading like wildfire across social media. It's just a comedian on stage telling a joke. But this wasn't just any joke. This was the moment that would bring down one of America's most beloved TV dads and change how we look at The Cosby Show forever. The comedian's name was Hannibal Buress, and he was performing at a comedy club in Philadelphia. He was making fun of Bill Cosby, the man who played Dr. Cliff Huxtable on The Cosby Show. But Hannibal wasn't just making jokes about Cosby's comedy or his sweaters. He was talking about something much darker, something that had been whispered about for years but never really talked about in public. You see, before this moment, Bill Cosby was like America's dad. For 8 seasons, from 1984 to 1992, millions of families gathered around their TV sets every Thursday night to watch The Cosby Show. The show was groundbreaking. It showed an upper-middle-class black family living their best life. Dr. Cliff Huxtable was a doctor, his wife Claire was a lawyer, and their 5 kids were smart, funny, and relatable. The show wasn't just entertainment. It was revolutionary. At a time when black families on TV were often shown struggling with poverty or other problems, The Cosby Show presented something different. Here was a black family that was successful, loving, and normal. They dealt with everyday problems like homework, dating, and family arguments. Bill Cosby wasn't just playing a character. He seemed to be the perfect father figure. Parents across America, both black and white, looked up to Cosby. He gave speeches about education and personal responsibility. He told young people to pull up their pants and stay in school. He wrote books about fatherhood and family, values. To millions of people, Bill Cosby represented everything good about being a parent and a role model. But there were always whispers, rumors that something wasn't right, stories that got buried or ignored, women who tried to speak up but weren't believed. For decades, these stories stayed in the shadows, while Cosby's public image remained shiny and perfect. Then came that night in October 2014. Hannibal Buress was on stage, and he started talking about how much he disliked Cosby's public persona. He called Cosby smug and hypocritical. But then he said something that cut through all the silence. "Yeah, but you raped women, Bill Cosby," Buress said during his routine. The audience laughed nervously. Some people probably thought it was just a dark joke. But someone in that audience had their phone out recording. Within hours, that clip was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, people were sharing it, talking about it, arguing about it. What made this moment so powerful wasn't that the accusations were new. Cosby had faced accusations of sexual assault and misconduct long before 2014, but they went largely unnoticed by the public until video of Buress calling him out at one of his shows went viral online. The difference was timing and technology. This time, the right person said the right thing at the right moment, and social media made sure the whole world heard it. Suddenly, journalists started paying attention to stories they had ignored for years. Women who had tried to speak out before found that people were finally listening. The whispers became shouts. The buried stories came to light. Over 60 women have accused Cosby of various offenses, including rape, drug-facilitated sexual assault, sexual battery, child sexual abuse, and sexual harassment. Those allegations gained traction in 2014 after fellow comedian Hannibal Buress mentioned the allegations in a comedy set that went viral. The impact was immediate and devastating. Within weeks, Cosby's upcoming comedy shows started getting canceled. TV networks pulled The Cosby Show reruns off the air. His Hollywood Walk of Fame star was vandalized. The man who had been America's favorite TV dad was suddenly becoming its most hated villain. But it wasn't just about Bill Cosby anymore. This scandal was tearing apart something much bigger. It was destroying the memory of one of the most important shows in television history. People who grew up watching The Cosby Show didn't know how to feel anymore. Could they still love a show starring someone accused of such horrible crimes? The cast members of The Cosby Show found themselves in an impossible position. These were actors who had worked with Cosby for years, people who knew him personally. Some of them had been children when they worked on the show. Now they were being asked to comment on accusations that were shocking and painful. Malcolm Jamal Warner, who played Theo Huxtable, Cosby's son on the show, eventually spoke out about how difficult the situation was. The Cosby Shot. OW alum Malcolm Jamal Warner says the legacy of the series is tarnished by the sexual assault allegations made against Bill Cosby. He and other cast members had to balance their personal relationships with Cosby against the serious nature of the accusations. For fans of the show, it was heartbreaking. The Cosby Show had been more than just entertainment for many people. It had been a source of pride, especially for black viewers who finally saw themselves represented positively on television. The show had tackled important issues like racism, education, and family values. It had inspired countless young people and changed how America saw black families. Now all of that was complicated by the allegations against its star. Parents who had shown episodes to their children wondered if they should keep doing that. People who had fond memories of watching the show with their families felt confused and betrayed. The scandal also raised bigger questions about separating art from the artist. Is it possible to still enjoy The Cosby Show while knowing what we know about Bill Cosby? Different people had different answers. Some felt they could never watch the show again. Others argued that the show's positive messages were still valuable, regardless of who delivered them. As more and more women came forward with their stories, the evidence against Cosby became overwhelming. In 2015, he was charged with sexual assault. The legal battles went on for years, with appeals and retrials. His conviction was eventually overturned on a technicality, but the damage to his reputation was permanent. The Cosby scandal became part of a larger cultural moment. It happened around the same time as the Me Too movement, when women across different industries were speaking out about sexual harassment and assault. Cosby's case showed how powerful men could get away with terrible behavior for decades, protected by their fame and the silence of those around them. Looking back, that moment when Hannibal Buress made his joke seems like a turning point in American culture. It was the moment when social media proved it could be more powerful than traditional media in holding famous people accountable. It showed that sometimes one person speaking truth to power could start an avalanche of change. The Cosby Show itself became a casualty of this cultural shift. Reruns that had been playing continuously for decades suddenly disappeared from TV schedules. Streaming services removed the show from their platforms. A show that had once been worth hundreds of millions of dollars in syndication became virtually worthless overnight. For the entertainment industry, the Cosby scandal was a wake-up call. It showed that past behavior could catch up with even the most beloved figures. Studios and networks started taking allegations against their stars more seriously. The scandal helped create an environment where victims felt more empowered to speak out. But perhaps the most tragic part of this story is what it meant for the positive impact The Cosby Show had on society. The show had broken barriers and changed minds about black families in America. It had inspired young people to pursue education and dream big. All of that good was now overshadowed by the terrible truth about its star. The cast members who had been part of something groundbreaking found their legacy complicated by factors beyond their control. Child actors who had grown up on the set had to grapple with the possibility that someone they trusted and looked up to might have been living a double life. Today, more than a decade after that comedy club performance, the impact is still being felt. Bill Cosby's conviction was overturned in 2021, but his public reputation never recovered. The Cosby Show remains one of the most complicated artifacts in television history. a show that was genuinely important and influential, created by and starring someone accused of terrible crimes. The scandal also changed how we think about comedy and social media. Hannibal Buress probably never expected his joke to have such massive consequences. He was just a comedian making observations about someone he found hypocritical. But his words, amplified by social media, became the catalyst for one of the biggest celebrity downfalls in modern history. This story shows us how quickly things can change in our connected world. One viral video can destroy a reputation that took decades to build. It shows us the power of believing victims and the importance of holding powerful people accountable, no matter how beloved they might seem. It also reminds us that sometimes the most important moments in history happen in the most ordinary places. A comedy club in Philadelphia, a comedian making a joke, someone with a phone recording it. These everyday elements combined to create a moment that changed everything. The Cosby Show will always be remembered as groundbreaking television, but it will also always be remembered as the show whose stars' real-life actions made it impossible to watch the same way ever again. It's a reminder that our heroes are human, and that sometimes the people we look up to the most can disappoint us in the most devastating ways. That one scene, not from The Cosby Show, but from a comedy club stage, became the moment that changed how we see one of television's most important shows. It proved that truth, even when it's painful, will eventually find a way to the surface. And it showed us that sometimes one person willing to speak that truth can change everything. The legacy of The Cosby Show remains complicated to this day. Some people can still watch it and appreciate its cultural importance. Others can never see it the same way again. But everyone agrees on one thing. That night in October 2014, when a comedian made a joke that went viral, changed television history forever. If this story shocked you as much as it did millions of others, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with your friends. Stories like this remind us why it's so important to listen to victims and hold powerful people accountable. Subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the moments that changed entertainment history. And let us know in the comments. Do you think it's possible to separate art from the artist? Or are some things impossible to overlook? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.